Welcome back. Let's now switch our attention to the Building Bridges initiative, something the president talked about yesterday in Sagana. But earlier on in the week, ODM leader Raila Odinga kickstarted his tour of central Kenya with a visit to Githurai and other neighborhoods along the Thika superhighway. Odinga's trip coming a day after the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) approved BBI signatures, signaling the introduction of the BBI draft bill to the 47 county assemblies. Odinga's tour is regarded as an attempt at not only popularizing BBI, but also endearing himself to voters in the region ahead of 2022. Let's get more from KTN's Mark Namaso.
ODM leader Raila Odinga's entourage snaking its way along Thika superhighway just outside Nairobi. Odinga taking full advantage of the crowds gathering along the road and neighborhoods straddling the superhighway to outline his mission. Among the areas he visited was Githurai in Kiambu County. Odinga, known for his mastery of pulling crowds during political rallies, making BBI one of his agenda items, now that the IEBC has okayed the tabling and debate of the BBI bill in the counties after signature verification. Besides the BBI, Odinga was also making full use of the opportunity to ridicule his opponents, starting with a leader he says has been in power, fed masses with lies, and is intending to seek political office to continue with the charade.
Wengine wanaita miezi 6 months. Alisema wakiingia katika serikali baada ya miezi 6 kila mtoto kwa shule atakuwa na laptop. Miaka sasa ni 8. Wale watoto walikuwa darasa ya kwanza, wako darasa ya 8, wanakwenda kufanya mtihani. Hiyo laptop imeonekana.
Sisi watu wa Githurai na Nairobi ni BBI. Ati ni nini? Mimi kama mwanasheria tutakuja tutawaelezea mambo ya BBI vizuri sana kwa makini. Githurai mko.
Central Kenya is regarded as an area with huge political capital in terms of votes. And with the BBI debate now headed to the counties, it presents the next perfect battlefront for flexing political muscles ahead of 2022. Mark Namaswa, KTN News.
All right, we'll get into that a little later on, but on the BBI, something the president talked about yesterday in Sagana, and we understand from the meeting, the members of county assemblies who are present in the meeting made a demand to have car grants in order for them to offer their support to the BBI, something to which the president agreed 2 million car grants for every member of county assembly in the country. Roslyn Obala, is this possible?
Ben, we always say that in politics anything is possible, and you will even be promised heaven when we know you cannot go to heaven. This is not the first time we are discussing this issue of car grants for MCAs. Remember, since 2013, this was a very emotive issue when MCAs rallied to have the car grants. And the president met MCAs in Mombasa, if you remember, at the NIC. At that time, we had Okoa Kenya initiative by the then CORD coalition led by Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka. We also had the governors push the Pesa Mashinani led by the former governor Isaac Ruto. And for this to rally MCAs to reject this popular initiative, we remember the president and the deputy president promised the MCAs a car grant. But when the reality dawned, when they had the CAF, that is the County Assemblies Forum leadership, met with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, there was actually not any good news from SRC. And SRC gave the reasons why MCAs could not get the car grants. Because again, if you look at that institution, their work is to set salaries and benefits. And for that, they were saying that it was not possible at that particular time because of the ballooning wage bill and the way even the negotiations were crafted, because CAF is not a statutory body as Council of Governors. So the advice was, first, they should lobby Parliament to ensure that CAF as an organization is actually recognized in law. Then second, now they should negotiate the benefits based on the wage bill that they are trying to reduce. Now, if you hear the president again promising MCAs the car grants currently, and it is just some months to the elections, you ask yourself, because currently SRC is reviewing salaries and benefits of public and state officers. So yes, it is sweet for politicians, but for it to come, it will be a tall order.
Seems to be stick and carrot strategy that the president uses. Dismas, what should be going through the minds of MCAs across the country as the draft bill of the BBI goes to them now? The honors rest on their shoulders to pass it or reject it?
The probability of more than 24 county assemblies passing the BBI bill is 100%. The MCAs are going to take a decision not because they've socialized with the contents of that bill and they're happy, but because it's going to be a political decision. For instance, there's not one county assembly in Mount Kenya region which will say no to this and not fear, annoying President Kenyatta. So the county assemblies are going to say yes, more than 24%. They're going to say yes, and it's going to become, as far as I'm concerned, it's really a done deal. It's a wrap. Everything we are undergoing through right now is a mechanical process. And for the other public and state officers, it's incumbent on SRC to come up with very solid terms, but they must be anchored on key performance indicators. And in my view, public servants and other state officers need to have a very good salary, very good allowances, right. But these must be pegged on key performance indicators. Because right now, there are many cabinet secretaries, there are many MPs, those members of the National Assembly and Senate, who earn these big, fat, obscene salaries, but you don't get to see the outcome. So maybe what SRC should be doing, instead of maybe making a statement that maybe 2 million right. can compromise the public wage bill, they should be key performance indicators. We should have a list of name and shame to get to know who are the public servants in Kenya who are delivering for Moram. Even the county assemblies, we should be rating and ranking them to find out of the 47 county assemblies, which county assembly is actually delivering on their mandates.
Fair enough. Let me take you back to that. You seem very sure that the BBI draft bill will be passed by more than 24 of the 47 counties. Why are you so sure? What are you basing this on? Because we are seeing a situation where our central Kenya region, the president is struggling, seems to be struggling to convince the region to pass the BBI.
Well, we go back to the toxic politics that we spoke about. There are a number of presidential candidates who have been thriving on that alternative news, fake news, lies and deceit. Those are the ones who've created the perception that BBI is going to be a successful failure in Mount Kenya region. For instance, can you imagine that the County Assembly of Kiambu will say no to BBI, or Nyeri, or maybe the County Assembly of Kisumu will say no to BBI, or Kisii, or Nyamira? The kind of political weight that Raila Odinga and his friend, President Kenyatta, and the other top politicians are placing on this is going to be like a tsunami. And it's very easy to see that you are going to have more than 24 county assemblies passing it. Right. It's going to become a mechanical process. Believe you me, those MCAs will not take 1 minute to go through the documents. They're not even going to engage in public sensitization or get views from members of the public. It's just going to be a mechanical process. And there's a very high probability that from tomorrow it's going to be a competition on which county is going to be the first one to pass the bill.
All right, we'll wait to see. I'm still being the devil's advocate here. Mark Bichachi, from what Dismas is saying, I find that hard to believe because we saw, like in the clip we aired earlier, the ODM leader Raila Odinga in Githurai, he was lonely in terms of being welcomed and shown around by area leaders. He seemed quite lonely in that, and he was struggling. He was even heckled in that particular area. Yet Dismas wants us to believe that this will be a tsunami. And we're seeing the president now going back, spending 4 days in Sagana, trying to solidify that region. So where is this tsunami going to come from?
First, Ben, I would like to vociferously denounce the culture of intolerance, the culture of violence that is stemming in this country. I think it is something that is despicable. The perpetrators of it need to be ashamed of themselves, and the political influencers that are actually pushing these people to act in this way should be condemned, because I can tell you for free, based on the reactions that I saw from part of the political class, that kept saying, what did you expect when you insulted us? That was the surest sign that that particular violence in Dudurai was orchestrated, and it is a shame. We may be celebrating it now based on where we sit in our political divides, but I can tell you we are celebrating the flashing down of our own country. It is a shame. That said, we need to understand something, and this is something that as a strategist has proven an old adage I learned many years ago, that if you repeat a lie often enough in politics, it becomes the truth. Let us start here. For the last 2 years, there's been one side of the political divide that has been campaigning, donating wheelbarrows and donating cash in church much more than the other side. Now, the truth of the matter is that that has had an impact. It has had an impact in the sense that if you ask the average Kenyan what the BBI is, some of them will tell you that it is about giving jobs for the boys, as though the referendum in itself, when you pass it, it is written there, president shall be, and Prime Minister shall be. That is not the case. We still have to subject it to an election. But that tells you the weight of propaganda, the weight of campaigning, and the weight of using various tactics, including blocking Gideon Moi from accessing certain areas, has had on this country. Now, does that mean that those efforts have been successful? The truth of the matter, this is not the first time Raila Odinga has been booed. It is not the first time we've seen someone jump the gate and try and bolt as the fastest horse out of the gate, and then still end up being caught. So the truth is this, and this is where it begins to turn. If you look at the meetings in Sagana and you see how there is silence from the mountain, how the mountain was willing to meet Uhuru Kenyatta. If we were having a discussion where Uhuru Kenyatta went and he met with himself and his family, then we would say that there's no tsunami. But let me tell you, there is a horse that bolted before the referee called for people to run. But let me tell you, there are Usain Bolts in this particular race, and he needs to watch out.
All right. Kipchumba Karori, in your prediction, do you see the county assemblies passing, or how easy do you see the draft bill sailing through the county assemblies?
And you have to understand one thing. We are dealing with an executive that can do anything to achieve whatever it's looking for. But left on its own, BBI will not fly past the assemblies. Maybe it can get 4 or 5 from Raila Odinga's backyard if it were to be left on its own. But now that it is being accompanied by threats, intimidation, KRA, EACC, and DCI being lined around, and the carrots of car grants and what have you, it will easily pass in the assembly. It will easily get the threshold of 24. Let us be honest with it. But the problem will come when now convincing the Mwananchi. When you speak to different people from various backgrounds, they have different ideas about how BBI should have been handled. And then most of the people you talk to now, Ben, are questioning the issue of timelines. Why do a referendum in August and then 1 year later go to another election? Aren't we stretching the same economy that is on the cliff heading towards a recession? So that is the question. The question is, can we buy all the Kenyans? Can we give car grants to all the Kenyans? And two, also as a lawyer, I need to set the record straight. The issue of car grants might not be as easy as it was said. Because remember, Okoitio Mtata and SRC have gone to court, and courts have demonstrated that you cannot give people incentives which touch on the exchequer without involving the constitutionally mandated Salaries and Remuneration Commission, because a car grant from government is still an incentive which is also allied to the work people are doing, and it's supposed to come from SRC. So the president might say he will give a fiat, but what about the pronunciation that the courts have issued about the constitutional role of SRC when it comes to giving incentives? And the other thing also, when you read most of these standing orders and the law around there, if today an assembly or parliament was to pass or to confer to itself a benefit, it is supposed to apply to the next house, not the immediate house. And that was done to safeguard public coffers and to safeguard legislations that are intended to making the supremacy of parliament. It is one of the ways of making sure that parliament does not run amok with institutions that are supposed to check it. When then we come back to the issue of BBI, at times I wish we had sold BBI as just BBI away from the politics. But be it as it may, some of us are still hell-bent and still persuading those people who believe in what we say that BBI documents should be relooked in introspection. Look at what is happening to our courts. Look at what is happening to our institutions. Do we say the people who cannot respect court orders, how will they respect additional laws? That's my question, Ben, to the people who are telling us BBI, BBI. But yes, in the assemblies, they will get the 24. It is easy. You can threaten a few assemblies and a few speakers. Look at what was done to Nairobi County Assembly for the impeachment of Sonko. Look at what was done in Kiambu. And look at what was done to the chairman of the County Assemblies Forum, Ben, Mr. Waome. And Ben, you have to remember, as a finality, Ben, the issue that happened before the president addressed the county assemblies the other day. We are told people were shouting car grants. It was until the president acceded to their car grants demand that they started talking to BBI, which means without the car grants, the discussion in that meeting about BBI could have been mooted.
All right. Thank you, Bwana Akili. Yes, Rosalie.
I think passing this bill in the assemblies will not be a problem. Remember, this document is giving MCAs 5% ward fund, which they have not been having. So this is also another incentive that will make the MCAs pass this bill. Now, again, the county governments are not only going to get at least 15%. With this bill, they are going to get 30% of the revenue raised, and not just the revenue that has been audited by Parliament, but the most recent revenue. So this is going to increase the allocation in the county. So for me, I think we should not be talking about will this bill pass the assemblies. We should be asking, will Kenyans pass this bill? Because if you look at the signatures that were submitted by the proponents of the BBI, that is Junet and Dennis Waweru, they submitted 4.4 million signatures. How many were cleared? 1.1 billion, or 1.1 million signatures of registered voters. So the conversation should be there, that once this bill passes the assemblies, it's going to Parliament. Whether any of the houses passes or not, it goes to the people. So the question is, will Kenyans pass this bill?
That's a question I want to ask you, Dismas, even as you react to what Kipchumba was saying. I could see you shaking your head vigorously in disagreement, but there's a lot of focus on the MCAs, on members of parliament and what they're going to get, but who is talking about the people and what they want?
You know, when you're engaging in this kind of a project, you look at the key success factors. Who are the key success factors? The first one is the MCAs, then the general population. And there was an opinion poll done by one of the Kenyan companies which indicated the majority of Kenyans have not socialized with the documents, and in fact they do not know what is contained in that document. That's why a number of them are opposing the document. And for one to imagine that the only reason the MCAs are going to pass this document is because of car grants, that is a fallacy of generalization. And that's imagining that Kenyans are generally, poor people in reading, that they have no capacity to understand issues. There are so many issues inside the BBI which will make Mora very happy. The first one is increased constituencies, and the people will see that wherever there is an increased constituency, that's about 100 million in CDF. That alone is an incentive. And then they increase the resource allocation to the counties. And again, there's this fallacy which has been created, that if you're not able to give 15% today, How will you be able to give 30% or 35% tomorrow? And you see, when you come up with that argument, it means that you are abandoning logic and you've decided to embrace mediocrity. The economy is going to grow, and even if the economy doesn't grow, let it be as a fact of law. In 10 years, 15 years, wherever the economy grows, then you go to that merit. And then number two, we've been told that this is the first amendment. There are going to be a series of amendments. So if people are unhappy with the first amendment, they can hold on into their horses and wait for the second amendment. In any event, the people who are claiming that this document can be made better, and you know that's a statement of fact that any document in the world can be made better, they were given the chance to make their contributions, but they flipped the bird on the BBI architects. Now the train has left the station. That's when they come on board and say this document can be made better. And I think these kind of people now should be preparing for the second amendment. Right. But this document, the document is good for Kenyans. It's very good. And anybody who has capacity to read English or Swahili or even Kikuyu, if you go through these documents, if you're looking for a reason to support it, you'll get 10 reasons. And on the same note, if you're looking for a reason to oppose it, you'll get 100 million reasons. Okay. But let's ask ourselves that at the end of the day, what serves our public and national interest?
Kipchumba Karori, 30 seconds only. Tell me this. What is your take on the remark by the president that some people are using his name and using the back door and secret window to enter into his backyard, and the fact that a section of Jubilee leaders allied to the deputy were not invited to the meeting in Sagana? Very quickly.
Then I think that comment, first of all, was unpresidential. The other thing is this: every person in this country, the political rights are individual rights. There are no communal rights. Secondly, you cannot have a door to a region. There is no, when it comes to voting, it is our Wanjiru, Karanja, and Jerry who votes. There is nothing like a communal vote where Mount Kenya deposits a vote. And then we go back to the issue of balkanization. If Uhuru Kenyatta tells us today that there is a door to Mount Kenya, and tomorrow we go to Nyanza, Raila Odinga tells us there is a door to Nyanza, at the end of the day, we will have what we call ethnic enclaves. There will be no nation to talk about. And I come back to what Bichachi normally says: if we go back to the politics of tribe, we can never have anything for the nation. Then remember, for the search of a nail, a shoe was lost. For the search of a shoe, the horse was lost. And for the search of a horse, a man was lost. The same, for a search of a tribe, we lost the president. And for the search of a president, we lost the whole nation. So Uhuru Kenyatta must know that as a president who is going home, Kibaki did not deny anybody a chance to get to Mount Kenya and sell their agendas. The same way Moi did not deny Kibaki in 2002 to enter Rift Valley or anywhere and sell his agenda under the Mwenge coalition. Therefore, Uhuru Kenyatta should learn from history.
All right.
So, there is something we must...
All right. I want to throw it to Mark Bichache for a second.
No, before Bichache says,
all right,
must tell
wind up because of time.
Every person has a right to say yes or no to BBI. Just because you will have a chance to run again, that does not mean you have to run the first race badly.
All right, Mark Bichache, what are your thoughts on this? And also tell me this, the president also said that some people are campaigning or are milking using his Napier grass. It was a saying. What does it mean? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, two things. Number one, I'd just like to correct Roslyn that it is not that the other 3 million signatures were thrown away. It's that the constitutional threshold for passing a constitutional referendum had been reached by the 1 million signatures. So it does not mean the others were invalid. Number two, when the president was talking about people milking with his Napier grass, it is the simple thing that has been happening in this country, which I've been calling a cacophony for a while. It is when William Ruto puts on his DP hat, goes and launches a project and says he has launched that project and he's doing very well as a deputy, and then he turns around and says that the president is doing nothing and has totally abandoned the Big Four agenda and he cannot do BBI and build Ngong Road or the expressway here in Nairobi. Now, why I call it a cacophony is if you look at the summation of the narrative, if you look at the song hymn, the hymn book of Tanga Tanga, you end up completely confused. When, for example, you say that the government has failed, yet you are a sitting member of cabinet, you vote at cabinet, you say it has failed. One more thing.
What about telling the DP that he should not use the back door to enter his home?
And that's what it means. You see, this is the issue. The DP has gone behind the president's back to do an agenda which the president does not have. And the question I've been asking myself, and this is why it's the back door, if you have a deputy and a president, and the two do not agree, okay, what do the rules of cabinet dictate? Doesn't it mean that the deputy should condescend to the president and say, the mandate is yours, let us do what you are saying we do for the country, my mandate will come. Now, my question is this, isn't it the back door to sit in cabinet, claim you are a president's deputy, and then turn around to be his arch nemesis? It cannot work. Even in the movies, Batman and Robin cannot do that. Gotham would not be safe.
All right, thank you for that. We'll continue to keep an eye on this discussion, the BBI and the 2022 general election discussions and campaign and debates are not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Let's take a quick commercial break. Here on Inside Politics, when we come back, there is a looming crisis in the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court of Kenya, following an injunction issued by the High Court sitting in Meru to bar the Deputy Chief Justice, Philomena Mwilu, from her office. Stay with us.